So I've been to Sturgis maybe just a few times, and I've collected several patches for my vest over the years. But over time, I started just going to the major anniversaries. So the last time I was in Sturgis was the 80th. But this year is the 85th Sturgis. And for this trip, I wanted to update a few of the items I normally take with me. Some of the essentials. I wonder if I can even wear this thing anymore. Not really. So the first thing I was thinking about is maybe bringing a battery jump pack. Because as we know, these new touring models have battery issues. And if you get stranded on the side of the road in the middle of Wyoming with no way to start that bike and on flat land, I'm thinking a battery jump pack might be essential and could really save you or maybe another rider out there on the road. So I've been looking at the jump packs, and if you go to Harley-Davidson's website, you can see they offer the Booster Portable Battery Pack. It's $144, $145. And if we look at it, it's a 12 volt, 1000 amp. And if you look at it closely, it looks very familiar to the NOCO brand. And as we know, Harley's using the NOCO brand for its tenders and its booster pack. So if we go over to Amazon, we can see here it's $99, currently with a 20% off. And you notice here it's got the 12 volt 1000 amp, and it looks exactly like the Harley-Davidson one. But then another item to consider is an air pump. So should you have an air pump with you? So that's something else I was thinking about it. So NOCO's actually updated their product, and they now have one that is both an air inflator and a battery pack, so a jump start. And this one is 2000 amp, and it'll inflate tires. However, it's $300, so it's quite the bump in price. But then again, you're getting really two products in one. But one of the things I was concerned about was the weight. So this shows that it's almost 10 pounds, where the GB40 1000 amp is only 2.4 pounds. So it's significantly less, right? Because you don't have the air pump there and you don't have the extra battery. But 10 pounds is pretty heavy compared to the 2 pounds, 2.4 pounds for just the battery pack. The other thing I'm concerned about is the size. So the battery pack itself is pretty small, but the battery pack with the air pump is actually fairly large. And they give you the dimensions, but I found this photo here on NOCO's website, and you can see by the gentleman's hand just how large this thing is. It's pretty sizable, but in the Amazon posting, it doesn't look so large, but clearly it is. And you can see here, here's the dimensions. So it's 10.63 inches deep, pretty good size, and then 7.24 inches wide and 6.42 inches high. So it's about an equal size box all the way around. It's pretty good size. I'm not sure I want that taking up all that space in my saddlebag. So the NOCO GB40, it is identical to the one that Harley is selling. So 12 volt, 1000 amps. Now they do sell one smaller, and I think for a motorcycle that would work. But you really don't save any size or weight. So I went with the 1000 amp. And we can see it's identical to the Harley-Davidson model. And what I like is this is multi-use. So not only can you jumpstart your bike, you can also charge your phone. So there's a USB connection. Unfortunately, it's USB-A, so keep that in mind. And it's only about 2 amps, so it's not going to charge your phone overly fast, but it'll charge it. The one thing I noticed though, I charged my GoPro with this, and it ate a quarter of the battery's life. So I'm not really sure how useful it is for charging USB devices, because I think you're going to run its stored battery power down pretty quick. And then you're going to need to jumpstart your bike and you won't have enough power in it to do so. So keep that in mind. But it is multi-use, so in a desperate need, you could charge something. The other port is USB-C, but this is for charging the battery pack only. This does not produce power outbound. In fact, if you plug your iPhone into the USB-C port, it'll start drawing the power from your phone to charge this, which might be handy in a desperate need, so keep that in mind. I do suspect NOCO will soon be updating this to just be USB-C in and out, and it'll probably support more amperage up for charging things faster. Okay, one other use is you can use this as a flashlight. It's a good light, produces a fair amount, so you can see your bike in the dark when you're trying to jump it or work on it. So again, a multi-use option. So you got a flashlight, you got a USB charging option, and then of course you can jump start your bike. I call this a win. It's really small, really lightweight, and does multiple things for you on the road. So if you end up needing to jump start your bike or just charge it, you can actually use the starter. So you don't have to remove the seat and take off the BCM and all the plastic tray to get to the battery terminals, which is quite a bit of work, and a few tools are involved to do so. And what a pain on the side of the road. So what I like to do is just use the starter. So you can pull this rubber boot off, and that will expose the positive line going directly to the battery from the starter. So you'll take your positive lead and attach it right to the bolt of the starter, so the positive side. And then the ground just needs to go to any bolt that's a good ground. So you can use one of these chassis bolts. We can grab this one right here. It's real easy and right next to it. And now you're set to start. And then the connector has a cap on it as well. And just connect the two. Obviously, they designed it so you can't put it in wrong. There are different shapes, but I would take a look. All right, so with that connected, you'll just turn it on, and you can see it's checking. And it notices here you're good to go. All the lights are good, and this indicates charging. So if you just wanted to charge your battery, you could just let this sit, and it'll charge it. But you are now ready to turn the ignition on and fire up the bike. Now, once you have the bike running, you'll want to turn it off, and then you'll disconnect the cables. And in this case, you're going to take the ground off first, and then the positive. When you install it, you put the positive on first, and then the negative. Now, this has a lot of safety in it, so if you screw it up, it shouldn't blow anything up. All right, so the next thing I always worry about is getting a flat tire. It would just be your luck to be in the middle of nowhere and suddenly pick up a screw. Now I will say you can generally ride with that screw in your tire and you'll only lose air slowly. So if you have your air pump with you, you can keep filling it up as you ride. And you may limp yourself along until you get to somewhere that can really fix it for you. But what if it starts really leaking and you're far away? Well, you're going to need your air pump. So this Fantic air pump is my choice. Super lightweight and works great. Has a light as well. So again, multi-use. The one thing I don't like is you have to screw this onto your tire. Now you can get it done, especially on the CVOs and now on the new bikes, it's a right angle stem. So it's fairly easy to get there, but I'm really not a big fan of this. It takes a lot of time and you lose air as you're screwing it on and a little bit while you're removing it. So it's not my first choice. Now you can get adapters. So this adapter will connect to the screw-on and then it'll be a traditional Presto valve. So you can just pop that on and then pop it off. So I bought this to go with it, and these two I've been using to fill my tires and top them off all the time. It works really great. I will say the gauge on here is not very accurate. And I've tried several of these and I've never found any one of them to be accurate. So you're still going to use your trusted tire gauge to get the pressure right. But out in an emergency, this will get it close enough so you can trust it enough to keep on going down the road. But what are you going to do if the air is just coming out and there's no way to keep it filled? We're going to go and get yourself a tire plug kit. And there are many of these and different designs. And I've tried a few. And the last one I tried, I actually ended up breaking the tool to put the plug in. It's just so hard to ream out a big enough hole to get your plug in and then pull it out to leave the plug behind. It requires a lot of muscle. So unless you're in really good shape, which I am not, you're going to really struggle to plug your tire. And I've had no luck with every plug kit I've ever tried. So I decided to go searching and I found this one. So this is a mushroom plug. And over the years, I've heard from different riders that the mushroom plug is the way to go instead of the standard rope plug. And this one is made by Grand Pit Stop. And you can see here, this is the components it comes with. So you get this heavy duty inserting tool, it looks like this, and you get a reaming tool, and you get this inserter tool. So it inserts the mushroom plug right in the tire. The beautiful thing is you just screw it in. So you just keep screwing and it'll push it into the tire. And you don't actually have to use any muscle to force it in. They give you a set of mushroom plugs of different sizes depending on what size hole you run into. And they're pre-greased and ready to go into the tire. The kit is only $27 with 15 plugs, or you can get it with just 6 plugs for $23.30. I'm not sure why you would do that. Just get the additional plugs. You never know, over your lifetime of riding, how many plugs you're going to need. So this is what's in the kit, and I would hang on to the instruction sheet. And if you're smart, you might take a picture of this and put it in your phone. So if this is not with you, at least you have a picture. But it shows you the order of how the parts go together. And it took a while to figure it out. So the first part you're going to do is ream out the hole. So you're going to pull the screw out. You may want a set of pliers. It doesn't include that. So a set of pliers on your bike is a good thing to have. So you'll get the screw out and then you're going to have to ream it out. You need to make the hole big enough to fit the mushroom plug. Otherwise you'll be fighting it. So you're going to take this tool. So this is what it looks like, and it screws in. So you'll screw it out. And then you'll select a plug that fits about the size of your hole. Again, these are greasy. So you're going to set that in the end here. So you may need to loosen this all the way out so you can get your plug in there. So we're going to unwind this quite a ways. And now the plug is sitting level with the opening. So there's our plug right there. And you're going to take this and you're actually going to push your mushroom down into the hole. So it'll go right in fairly easily. So at this point, you're now going to flip your nozzle over and you're going to screw it in there. So you're going to screw this all the way in. Okay, and now you have a tip. So what you're going to do is you're going to push this tip into the tire. And then you're just going to start cranking. And you're going to end up pushing that plug through that tiny little opening into the tire. So it's fairly easy. Doesn't require a lot of force. The most effort will be trying to get this tip into the tire. So you're just going to keep rotating. So again, you're pushing against the tire as you're doing this, so it's a little easier, but you're just going to keep going. And here comes that mushroom plug starting to come out the tip. So you're just going to keep going, and there it is. So now it's expanded, right? So you'll turn it all the way in. So now it's as tight as it will go. So then you can back it off a little bit, and then you're just going to pull it out. And when you pull it out, it's going to leave that mushroom in your tire, and it's going to grip around here. This part will be sticking out, so you can just cut that off. So really very easy, not a lot of force to do this, and this looks to be a good, reliable solution, one that I hope I never have to find out. But at least I know I can probably get this in the tire, even with my weak, skinny arms. Okay, so something I always have with me, but I thought I'd mention it, is some sort of tool kit. And I really, over the years, enjoyed this small one from Cruise Tools. There are a few manufacturers that make one like this, including Harley-Davidson. But these are great because you have all the little Allen keys, you have the most common Torx keys, all built in. This was clearly thought out for a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. It does not have metric stuff in it, but you can buy these with metric stuff. So it has all the common sizes that you need, and even a Phillips and a flathead. And then when you flip this over, you've got some sockets. And of course you can use this end to connect the sockets. So this is really something. And there's even a multi-open wrench here. So I always have this in my bike year round, no matter how far I'm going. This is quite handy. But one thing you don't have is a pair of pliers. And if you're going to pick something up in your tire, it's likely to be a screw like this one. And you can see this is one that was in my tire. And you're really going to need something to get this out. So you might bring a pair of pliers. All right, so the other upgrade I want to make this year is for comfort. Now, Sturgis can be any type of weather. You can be even the upper 30s in the morning and then over 100 degrees in the afternoon. It's possible, I've witnessed it. But man, when it's hot, it is hot. And if you're going through Wyoming with the wind and over 100 degrees, you are melting. And over the years, I've tried all kinds of things. I bought a big bag of ice and just poured it all down my gear, and then it melted as I rode. It worked okay, but you got really uncomfortable because your clothes were all wet. But sometimes I've been really desperate and I would try anything. So heat is a real thing, and it can be really dangerous while you're riding should you start getting dehydrated or maybe experience a heat stroke. It's very dangerous. So this year, I wanted to see, was there any technology that might help me be more comfortable and cool down just a little bit. Harley-Davidson has this cooling vest, and I've seen this used by a couple of the YouTubers out there, and they seem to have good things to say about it. It's basically a vest that is meant to be soaked. So you soak it in water and then you put it on. You can put it on over your t-shirts, actually the recommendation. And then as you ride, the air flows through it and the evaporation of the water in the vest cools you down. It also absorbs your sweat. So as you sweat, it's absorbing that and then air's flowing through it, cooling you down. And as we know, that's the whole purpose of the human body sweating, is to get moisture on you and then air flowing across it to cool you down. So this was an interesting idea. It's fairly thin and fairly lightweight, so I think it would roll up nicely and be easy to store, and then you just pour water over it. But it is $65. And so of course, I went looking on Amazon. And on Amazon, I found several. Many of them are designed to be frozen or have ice packs. And if you think about it, that is not a smart decision while you're on the road. You have no way to freeze those ice packs. Now, if you're staying in hotels, you may have a refrigerator in your room, but you're not going to have a freezer. So maybe the concierge will be willing to take your ice packs and freeze them for you. But once they thaw, you're stuck. You don't have a way to refreeze them. So I really like the idea of just using water to cool me instead of ice packs. So this is a vest very similar to Harley-Davidson's version. It's meant to be soaked. You soak it and then you put it on. Now it's made by Egodyne, which is a company in St. Paul, Minnesota. This one's a little bit thicker. So I noticed that shopping around on the pictures here, it's definitely thicker than the Harley one. But I wondered if that would be a bad thing or a good thing. This one may hold more water than the Harley one and therefore be damp for longer, but it's a little harder to roll up and make small, especially if you need to find a way to get water on it. You're going to need to be able to roll it up pretty small to get it under that tiny bathroom faucet in the men's room. So it's $30, so significantly less than the Harley-Davidson one. So I gave it a purchase, and we'll see how it works. So I started thinking, how could I get this wet? What would be the easiest way? Well, use a bucket, but I'm not sure you're going to bring a bucket with you. And it's fairly bulky to get underneath the head of a sink. So then I started looking around on Amazon, what might work? And I came across a cooler bag. And this bag is a little bit unique. There are a lot of cooler bags out there. This one's designed that you just fill it with ice. So you fill it with ice cubes. You actually can fill it with water and then freeze it, but I think it'd be pretty bulky. You can just fill this with ice, right? And it'll still then cram into your saddlebag is my thought. But then what I was thinking is I'd fill this with ice and I'd put this in the bag. And then as it melted through the morning, in the afternoon when I needed it, I would be able to pull this out and it'd already be soaked in really cold water. So the cool thing about this bag is its opening. It's really large because you have this clip here and you just slide that off and then you can open up the bag all the way. So A, it makes it really easy to fill with ice, got plenty of room to stick it under an ice machine. But you can also jam your garment in there along with it. This is actually designed as the water melts, you can drink out of it. But I wouldn't recommend it if you're going to stick your sweaty vest in there. So with it rolled up super tight, I think I can fit it in here. And then I have room for ice on the side. So I'll just fill it up with ice and start the ride in the morning. And then by the afternoon, the ice should have mostly melted. And in theory, all that cold water will be absorbed by my vest that I can then take out and put on. So I'd be careful to leave the extra water in the bag and seal it back up, because that way, as I dry out the vest, I could then pour a little more water on it to refresh it. The other cool thing, right, is it's just a bag for ice. So if you stop at a gas station, you might be able to get some free ice, or maybe you'll have to pay for it. But you'll be able to get a bag of ice or use the ice machine and fill this again with ice. So then you'll have melting ice to have fresh water to keep pouring on your vest throughout the afternoon. And you do get 2 of these bags. So you could mark one for using with your vest and maybe use this other one for water. So you just fill it with ice and then you can drink out of it as it melts. And then you could put this one in your other saddlebag to even it out. Now I did test this out. So if I leave this filled with ice outside and just let it melt, it took about 2 hours for the ice to melt. And one of the big challenges with these ice bags is condensation. So for years, I would take a big gallon Ziploc bag and fill it with ice and stick that in my luggage. And then I would end up where I was going, and the condensation from that Ziploc will have soaked all of my clothes in the bag. So I really stopped doing that. Now you can use multiple bags, so use Ziploc bags and put a few together to make it thicker. That does help. Or you can take just a towel and put a towel between your stuff and your Ziploc bag. That works. But the Ziploc bags, they just melt right away. They tend to leak. Those little seals can leak. They're not watertight. This one is watertight. It did not leak at all. And the condensation was minimal. It's still there. You'll still get some condensation on the surface as it melts, but not very much. So I think this is quite the win. What a great little product. For 20 bucks, I thought it was worth a try. So as I was looking for cooling stuff, I came across all kinds of things that are designed to cool you off. And one of the items I found were these neck wraps. They come in a pack of 3. And my thought was that I could cool these and put them around the back of my neck. Because if the sun is behind you while you're riding, your neck is gonna fry. Trust me, I've experienced it. Don't forget the sunscreen or use one of these. But I was thinking having a cooling effect around my neck might really feel comfortable. And then I wondered, could I use it as a headband in addition? So these are 29.5 inches long, and they have a little slit in them to make it easy to wrap around. So you can put this around your neck and then feed it through the slit. But in my case, my head is actually small enough that I can make it fit over my head. And the other night, I was mowing the lawn, and this was a game changer. One of my new favorite things. Now keep in mind, it's not meant to wrap around your head like a headband, so your head has to be small enough. But if your head is too big, they do make specific ones that are headbands. All right, so I got my vest in there with a bunch of ice cubes. There's actually still more room in there. I could probably get a little more ice. But I don't want to make it too bulky because I still got to fit it in my saddlebag. So with this full, they tell you to slide this on one side. So it says slide this direction. Don't try to slide it on this way. That's one thing to note. So you'll flip this over to seal it on the line. And then you'll take your sealer, and there's a hook. And you'll just hook that like a chip bag and slide it across. So with that on there, there is no water coming out of there. When it melts, we'll give it a good test. And you can see it expands here. So here's the vest, and here's all the ice cubes around it. They give you this little vent to drink out of, but it also works to let air out. So what I'm gonna do is just push down and get all the air out and then pop the cap so you can get it condensed. So now it's a bit compressed, keeping the ice around the vest. I don't know, is this gonna work? So I'll let this melt now and I'll time it and we'll see how long it takes to melt. I'm just gonna leave it here in the garage. It's pretty warm in here. I'm not gonna set it in the sun because normally it'll be in the saddlebag. So a little warmer than the garage, but not too much. So my guess is in about 2 hours, this will be melted. But I just thought of one thing. So let's open that back up and let's take our headband and add it to the bag. So now we have both of them cooling. We'll jam the headband down there a little bit. So now we'll have both of them cooling and both will be ready for use this afternoon when it gets up in the upper 90s. All right, it's been a couple hours and we still got some ice in there. Now granted, it's been in the garage. It's a bit cooler than outside and a bit cooler than it would be in the saddlebag. So I think a 2-hour mark is about right. It'll hold ice, at least in some solid form, for 2 hours. Not bad. And there's really no condensation here, just a little dampness, but it's pretty good. So one thing I thought of is you should pre-soak your vest. Duh, that would work a lot better. So get it completely wet before you put it in this bag with the ice. That would get it off to a much better start. We can see there's no liquid in here, so it has been absorbing it. Let's see what we've got. Still some ice in there. So it's damp, but not completely wet. So I should have pre-soaked this before I put it in the bag, but I do think this solution will work out as long as you do that step first. All right, I've got the wet vest on. Now I changed into an all-white shirt because one of the reviewers commented that the blue on the inside of the vest was wearing off on their shirt. We wouldn't want that to happen on a brand new Sturgis shirt on your way home. That would suck. So we're gonna put our mesh jacket over it. So the mesh jacket will let the air through and then in theory it'll hit the vest and then go through the vest and then cool the body. Now I can say, like I said, this is pretty thick and I'm not sure how much air will flow through, but we'll find out. Let's go for a ride. Not a whole lot. So it figures I go to test a cooling vest and the clouds come out and the rain begins to fall. I only saw 89 degrees on my ride. But here's what I would say. This was noticeable about 50 miles per hour, mostly on my shoulders. That's where I'm getting the cooling from. But the chest area, really nothing. And even after a 30-mile ride, it's starting to dry out. There just isn't enough airflow going through the vest to cool me. It's very cool on the outside where it's wet, but on the inside, it's very warm. So I just feel like I'm wearing a warm, wet rag. It doesn't look like any of the blue material rubbed off on my white shirt, so I think you're safe there. The biggest challenge, I think, is how thick this garment is. It's super thick, and you can't really even see through it. So if you can't see through it, how's the air gonna get through it? And I'm wondering if the Harley-Davidson one might work out better. So I got a few new additions to take with me to my next Sturgis trip, the 85th Sturgis. I think the tire plug kit could come in handy. The Noco will charge my phone maybe a couple times, and hopefully I don't need it to start my bike. But if you see me on the road and you've got a bike that's just clicking, let me know. I got the battery pack. I'm bringing my Fantic X9 Pro. I think it's nice and small, a lot smaller than some of the other ones I've tried. And of course, a cruise tool, multi-tool. Pretty handy. So on the cooling front, I'm pretty impressed with these neck wraps. They work over my head as a band as well, which is a bonus. But I think these will make a big difference. You could really wrap them around anything as long as they fit and cool you off. So I think these are a great option. And then the ice bag. It's still got ice in it, even sitting here for several hours now. Pretty impressed with this, right? The big opening, it makes it so easy to fill. The option to get the air out or drink the melted water. Just don't use the one you use with your headbands. And then I will look at adding the Harley-Davidson cooling vest to my cart, and we'll see if I get it in time for Sturgis. If it works out, you'll see a video on it. Links to all the products I featured in this video will be in the description. My Amazon links cost you nothing to use, but I get a small referral fee if you do. Much appreciated. Now, if you can't be in Sturgis this year, you can always catch it on YouTube. They're always streaming the cameras of what's going on. And we can see now there's not a whole lot of motorcycles. But in a couple weeks, that's going to change. It's always fun to watch the rally on YouTube. So my Sturgis trip is going to be short. I plan to be there on Wednesday the 6th or Thursday the 7th. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'll only be there for 1 or 2 nights. So if you're going to be in Sturgis and you'd like to say hello, send me an email. Hopefully we'll be at the same place at the same time and we can say hello. You never know, I may have a free Madehawk adapter with me. I've always enjoyed my trips to Sturgis. It's a great place to ride. Even coming from Colorado with the Great Rocky Mountains, the Black Hills are something else. And there's a lot of great rides. So take a look at a map and plan out your adventure. You won't regret it. So I sure hope you found this information useful. And if you did, go share it with someone else. And maybe subscribe. But until next time, in the friction zone.